We've got a Skalka size 8 barbless check nymph hook in the vise. I've already added my 3 layers of lead on here to weight it. You could put several more if you wanted an even heavier fly. Kind of doubled up in this area to build up that thorax. Let's get our thread on here using power silk thread. Small diameter, super strong, almost unbreakable. Allows us to put a lot of tension on some of these synthetic materials without worrying about breaking them. Let's get our excess thread off here. This just secures that lead a little bit better to the hook. Now right down here, let me adjust this a little bit. Just going to be right up here on the lead a little bit. We're going to take our first piece of flexibody that we've cut off. Comes on a cardboard strip. Comes in about 15 different colors, including a clear, which is nice. And again, the width of the piece you cut depends on the size of the fly. I like to cut a small little point in the end here, a little easier to tie in. So I'm just going to trap that against the lead here with a couple wraps. And just slightly apply some tension and work the thread back down onto the bare hook. Just make sure to fill in that little gap there with some thread. Just give ourselves a nice transition. Alright, so that's tied in. Now we're going to add some dubbing underneath to bulk up the body a little bit. This is a dubbing brush, makes it quick and easy. JS dubbing plus deer. It's got a little deer chopped in there. We'll be covering this up, but it's a good brush to use for lots of different nymph patterns. So once we secure that in, we can just go ahead and clip off our excess thread here. All we simply have to do is take this brush and wind it forward. Now we can come in here and just kind of trim some of these longer fibers off the top if we don't need them. If there's any long ones underneath, just get them out of the way. Again, we're going to be covering this up, so don't have to be too perfect with it. There we go. Now we're just going to take our flexibody and just slowly make sure that's secure. Now we can get rid of this. Adjust that back a little bit. Alright, now we're going to use the same flexibody material. A little piece off of there for the thorax, but it's going to be quite a bit wider, about twice as wide as the piece we used for the body. I like to cut a little point in here as well, a little kind of an arrow point. Helps me tie that in. So I'm just going to set that right on top and just trap that down with a few thread wraps, keeping it centered, and just work it back slightly. This has a long thorax on this fly. It just looks odd when it's tied with a real short little thorax that most of the nymphs have. So you want to come back and almost cover up a little bit of what you already tied in. You can kind of pull it forward and take a look, and that looks pretty good. Now for the legs, we're going to use a partridge feather. There's a natural curve to this feather, so we're just going to utilize that and lay this right on top and trap this down right in that little gap we created. And you can secure all those fibers all the way forward. That way you know it's not going to slip out. Now we're going to use some regular dubbing to create a buggy section, a thorax underneath here. So I'm just going to use some of this Pearl Hair Zero Plus dubbing. This is just a black, a nice soft dubbing, got a little bit of a sparkle to it. Just wrap this dubbing forward, get that feather out of the way, and just leave a little gap here behind the eye so we can tie down that flexibody later. Secure that, and we can get rid of this extra thread. Now another little trick to reinforce this feather before we pull it forward is just to add a little bit of head cement right there on top. Adjust this. Now we can bring this feather forward just to keep it centered. Kind of take the fibers and stroke them back a little bit, keep them out of the way. Just make sure to hold that down. And just get a couple soft wraps here. I'll see this in a second. Secure that, and we can come in here and cut off the stem of the feather. There we go. Now you can see how that's been brought over the top like that. Some of the fibers here in the back of the feather I want to remove before I pull this piece of flexibody over. So I just come in here and get these on each side, maybe the last 4 or 5 fibers out of the way here. Alright, there we go. Now, just grab that piece of flexibody, slowly bring it forward. What that'll do is it'll just kind of force all those fibers from that partridge feather down into the side. Keep it centered. Now you can bring that thread over and get a couple wraps, lock it in place, and you can really apply some tension. That's not going anywhere. Take the blade in here and just kind of back and forth. We'll trim this off nice. There we go. I like to get a whip finish on here and really load this up to make sure that flexibody's secure. Give that a good pull. Get rid of our thread. Adjust this a little bit. I'm going to use a Edding marking pen. These are nice pens. They come from Germany. We're just going to take this and we're just going to come in here and real lightly, just being careful not to color that feather too much, and just cover this thorax. And the ink in these pens is so unique. Everybody asks me what kind of epoxy I've used on these flies, but you can see already the shine that you get off of that. Because most of these insects in the stream have a dark top and a lighter bottom, so what I like to do also, just come in here and just straight back, just a couple lines with the ink, just to kind of match the width of that thorax. And there you have it. There's the Ammonite nymph. I can adjust this a little bit better here. Works good. Dead drift that, indicator, check nymph fishing, tied in a bunch of different colors. Tie some up and catch some fish. Sure.